In this very short tutorial, I'm going to show you how to cover a cake dummy. Now this cake dummy is exactly 10 inches in diameter and 8 inches deep, so it's very, very deep. You will notice I have placed this on some baking parchment on a cake board, and I have also covered this with some cooled down boiled water. This will act like a natural glue. Here I am rolling out 1.5 kilogram of a very high quality black fondant, and you'll notice that I keep on picking the fondant up with my rolling pin and then just turning it the other way, and this just ensures it does not stick to the work surface. Keep on using plenty of icing sugar, and remember it does need to be a high quality fondant because I'm not using a wrapping round method. I'm literally going to be draping this directly over the dummy, smoothing it out and just cutting off any excess. In reality, I spent 10 minutes rolling out this single piece of fondant. So take your time, and you need to make sure that it's big enough, because if it's too small, it just means starting again. I then lift this with both of my hands because it's so large the rolling pin was not big enough, and drape it over the cake dummy. Now we need to negotiate these pleats, but whilst I'm negotiating the pleats gently whilst it's on this cake dummy, I'm also cutting off any excess fondant. This is important because the more weight you've got at the bottom, you can see where it's hanging over in parts. It just means it's going to continue to pull that fondant down, and because I've got a sharp-edged cake dummy, that's where the fondant can actually tear. Now, as mentioned right at the beginning of this very short tutorial, using a high-quality fondant is crucial. The reason being, it takes longer with certain fondants for it to start to set. When the air gets to fondant, that's when it's starting to dry. And if you have dry fondant, that's when you struggle, you get tearing on the actual cake or cake dummy. So if you're using something that can withstand longer, it just gives you a longer time, especially when you're covering something as deep as this. Spending extra money on that decent fondant will work. So people normally say, what brand do you use? It doesn't really matter what brand it is. Go by the price. If you see the price and think, whoa, that is expensive, it's expensive for a reason. It's down to everything. You get what you pay for. So you're wanting to avoid the air to get to this, especially this does take time and practice. I mean, I would not have been able to do this when I first started, but it's a very good point to go by. A high quality fondant, you get what you pay for. I'm working with a very difficult colour as well, and I actually did this in the middle of a heat wave over in the UK, so it really did work. Now, there are a lot of creases, but again, because it's a high quality fondant, it allows me to smooth it out a lot easier. Once you've finished negotiating all of these pleats, you then need to take your cake smoothers and take your time smoothing out the actual cake dummy, or in your case, it may be a cake. So now you can see me with the smoothers, and what I like to do, I like to push down against the base of the cake just to get a nice sharp line, which makes that excess fondant very easy to cut away. Once I've cut that excess fondant away, I then go around the whole cake dummy, or in your case it may be a cake, with the smoothers. Remember, this just takes a lot of practice and a lot of time, but you will get there. And remember what I said about the fondant. I do have some amazing tutorials coming your way in a few weeks' time, so stay tuned to the page. Happy baking, guys, and I hope this very short tutorial has helped you today.